I worked night security at a technology store downtown. It was a temporary job. I was 34, hoping to save for my first home. I'd done security before, but this place was different. During the day, it looked sleek with glass walls glowing from the city lights. At night, it felt empty and eerie. My first shift was quiet, just me and the blinking gadgets. I walked the aisles, checking everything was in its place. I noticed the security cameras flickering. I thought it was just some electrical issue. It didn't seem important at the time. The patterns looked strange, almost like they were trying to say something, but I brushed it off. As the weeks went by, the flickering grew worse. Around midnight, I started seeing strange things on the monitors. Items moved on their own. At first, I thought I was just tired or imagining things. I kept doing my rounds, shaking off the feeling. The aisles felt longer at night, and every shadow made my skin crawl. Then one night, I saw a shadowy figure on the edge of the camera feed. It was quick, just a flash. My heart raced. It sent a chill through me. I told myself it was probably just shadows playing tricks on my mind. Still, I had to check it out. The store was silent as I walked toward where I saw the figure. I felt uneasy. It's just my imagination, I whispered to myself. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. A few nights later, I caught something on the footage, a person I didn't recognize. They were messing with phones and tablets. I checked the staff list. They didn't belong there. My stomach twisted with unease. Who was that? I played the tape over and over. I had to understand. But sleep was slipping away from me. I started seeing those shadowy figures even when I wasn't on the monitors. As the month wore on, I felt a growing dread. One night, I heard whispers. Maybe it was the wind, but it felt wrong. I picked up my walkie-talkie. It felt heavy in my hands. I was cold, alone in the store. Then I saw it again on the monitor. The blurry figure stood by the exit. It turned toward the camera. I felt a knot form in my chest. I asked, "Do you need help?" No answer. Just a heavy silence. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing. The store felt like it was watching me. I thought maybe I shouldn't come back. On my last night, the cameras started flickering again. I looked up in time to see a flash. I turned toward the door. Someone whispered my name. I stopped. Nobody was there. My heart raced. I felt a deep fear settle in me. What was going on? I wanted to run. But something pulled me to stay. I glanced at the monitor again, searching for the figure. Nothing. Just the empty aisles and blinking lights. But I knew I wasn't alone. The darkness felt alive, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was just waiting for me to leave. The air felt thicker that night. I stood frozen, staring at the monitor in front of me. I wondered if I had finally lost my mind. The lights above flickered, casting strange shadows that danced at the edges of the aisle. I gripped the walkie-talkie, my lifeline to the outside world, and for a moment considered calling for help. But who would come? I was alone, trapped in a store that seemed to have its own pulse. I felt the urge to recheck the footage. Maybe I missed something. I replayed the previous night's video. The figure appeared again, a blur by the exit. I leaned closer, my heart pounding in my ears. The figure had a familiar shape, but I couldn't place it. Just as I was about to zoom in, the screen went black. Panic rushed through me. I slammed my palm on the desk, but nothing flickered back to life. The emptiness of the store felt suffocating. I stood up quickly, glancing around. Shadows shifted in my peripheral vision, but when I turned, nothing was there. It was always like this now. I couldn't trust my eyes. I took a deep breath and stepped away from the monitor, deciding to check the security room's connection. As I walked down the aisle, I tried to shake off the fear that clung to me like a heavy coat. I reached the back room and fiddled with the cable. When I heard it again, my name, whispered softly, as if someone was just behind me. I spun around. "Hello?" I called. Silence answered. The only sound was the faint hum of the store. Feeling a surge of frustration, I returned to the monitor. I connected the cables and sighed with relief as the screen flickered back on. I instantly rewound to the previous clips, eager to uncover the mystery. The figure appeared again, but this time it was clearer. The person was wearing a hoodie, obscuring their face. I leaned in, squinting. The figure reached for something on the display, and as they did, the camera shook. I frowned. Why was the camera shaking? It wasn't supposed to do that. I continued watching and noticed a strange glitch. The feed flickered in and out, but during one of those brief moments, I saw a woman, standing right next to the figure. She looked worried, glancing around as if she was being followed. My pulse quickened. Who was she? Was she in danger? I needed to know more. The more I watched the video, the clearer the woman became. Her face finally came into focus. I couldn't believe it. It was someone I knew, an old friend from high school. But what was she doing in the store? And why was she with that figure? I felt this twisting in my stomach. I had to get to the bottom of it. Before I could move, the lights flickered again, then went completely out. Panic surged through me. The only source of light was the faint glow from the emergency exit signs. I stumbled toward the doors, my heart racing, but then I heard something. A voice, whispering, echoing through the store. I froze. "Help me." The voice was desperate, filled with fear. It sounded just like her. I had to act. But as I turned toward the exit, I gasped. The shadow was there, waiting for me. I couldn't back away now. I needed answers. But I was about to find out that some mysteries were better left unsolved. I couldn't breathe. The shadow loomed closer, its outline defined by the dim light from the emergency exit signs. Everything felt wrong. My instincts screamed at me to run, yet a part of me was tethered to the ground, unable to peel away from whatever this shadow was. "Who are you?" I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. The shadow didn't answer. It simply shifted as though it were made of smoke. In a sudden rush of adrenaline, I lunged toward the nearest aisle. I had to find a way out. As I sprinted past the shelves, I heard the whisper again, clearer this time. "Help me." It was her voice. I skidded to a halt, heart pounding. I couldn't leave her. I couldn't leave my friend. I turned back toward the sound, hesitating as I crept closer to the back of the store where I thought the voice originated. The shelves loomed over me, their shadows stretching like fingers in the pale light. I moved quietly, desperate to locate her. My mind raced with memories from high school. We had shared secrets and laughter. What could have led her here, in this store, at this hour? I turned a corner and found myself in the electronics aisle. My eyes fell on the security monitor again. The static buzzed, but the screen was working. I nudged it on with a flick of my hand, praying for insight. The footage resumed, but what I saw made my stomach churn. The figure reappeared, but this time the woman stood right beside them, visibly distressed. "Please, we need to go," she urged, glancing around as if sensing I might be watching too. My breath quickened. "What are you doing?" I barely managed to mutter, caught off guard by my own voice. They were both so close, so unaware that I could see them. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, flooding the store with harsh brightness. I shielded my eyes, blinking through the sudden glare. Then, silence engulfed me. But I quickly realized the figure was gone. My heart sank. Where had they gone? Hey! I yelled into the emptiness, hoping to catch at least a glimpse of either one. But there was only stillness. Desperate for answers, I turned back to the monitor as the footage replayed itself. In the corners of the screen, I noticed a detail I hadn't seen before. A small logo appeared briefly on the back of the figure's hoodie. It was familiar, yet I couldn't place it. That S when I felt it cold air brushing against my neck. I whipped around, but nothing was there. I was alone, yet I felt watched. Something was wrong. I returned, more determined, to the security footage. I needed a plan. I looked again at the logo. I would find out where it led. But just as I made that resolution, the lights cut out again, plunging everything into darkness. Panic swelled again. I grabbed my walkie-talkie, ready to call for help, but a voice filled the silence. Stop looking. I froze. Whoever it was, they were close enough for me to feel their breath on my skin. I backed away slowly, heart racing. Before I could think of my next move, the voice continued. Let her go. Every instinct in me screamed to run. But I needed to know who was behind this. My fingers tightened on the walkie-talkie. I was about to scream for help when I heard the sound of footsteps. Coming toward me. The footsteps stopped abruptly, and I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I felt the tension in the air, thick and oppressive. It was as if the darkness around me had become a living thing, constricting and stifling. I had to make a choice, stand my ground or flee. I gripped the walkie-talkie tightly. Who are you? I called out, forcing my voice to remain steady despite the dread pooling in my stomach. No response. Just silence. Then, another pair of footsteps echoed off the linoleum floor, distinct and determined. They weren't alone. Without thinking, I darted deeper into the aisles, relying on instinct alone. Adrenaline coursed through me, sharpening my senses. As I moved, I glanced up at the monitor, half expecting to see those ghostly figures again. But it was static, just a chaotic blur of black and white. Stay close, I whispered to myself, inching my way through the narrow spaces lined with abandoned merchandise. The shadows seemed to twist and stretch, as if they too were trying to conceal their secrets. I squeezed my eyes shut for a brief moment, grounding myself, reminding myself of why I couldn't leave. I had to find her. Suddenly, a flicker caught my attention. The emergency exit lights didn't illuminate the way forward, but they highlighted a form standing at the far end of the aisle. It was her. I rushed toward her, but it felt as if the ground was pulling me back, heavy and unyielding. Where have you been? I whispered as I approached. I could see she was shaken, hair disheveled, eyes darting nervously. They won't let me go, she murmured, her voice trembling. You have to help me. Before I could respond, I heard shallow breaths from behind me. My spine prickled. The other presence was closing in again. I turned instinctively, my heart racing, and in the feeble light of the exit sign, I saw the shadow re-emerge. It seemed to pulse and shift, and I felt an icy grip wrap around my throat. It was as if fear itself had taken form. You shouldn't have come, the voice rasped, low and threatening. Let her go. I shouted back, my courage fueling my anger. Help me, she echoed, but her voice grew fainter as if she were fading. My gaze flicked between her and the figure. I couldn't lose her, not like this. Just then, the lights flickered back on, brighter than before, and I felt the pressure release. The shadow lurked, watching, but my friend stood unaffected. Run! She shouted, and I didn't need a second invitation. We bolted down the aisle, but just then, I caught sight of something stuck in the edge of my peripheral vision, a glimmering object on the floor. I skidded to a halt, heart pounding as I leaned down. It was a phone, unlocked, the screen illuminating the darkness with images of the footage I'd just seen. I hesitated, torn between grabbing it or running. But before I could decide, the store's heavy doors swung open with a crash, revealing a darkened parking lot outside. Voices rose in a flurry of panic just beyond the threshold. Then came a new voice. "They're here." In that moment, everything shifted. I knew I had to choose. Flight or fight. But as I turned to face the encroaching shadows, a deep knot of terror coiled within me. I pocketed the phone for later and beckoned for my friend to follow. "Let us go," I shouted. But outside, the chill night breezes carried warnings I couldn't yet comprehend. The moment we burst through the doors, the cool air hit me like a slap. My lungs filled with a desperate freshness, but the weight of the darkness still lingered in my mind. We rushed into the parking lot, our shoes pounding against the cracked pavement, my friend close behind. "What was that?" she panted, glancing over her shoulder. I could see the panic swirling in her eyes like a storm. "I don't know," I admitted. "But we can't stick around to find out." The excitement of the outside world felt unreal, too quiet against the backdrop of our fear. As we sprinted across the lot, I heard the echo of footsteps again. Someone was chasing us. My heart dropped. "This way!" I yelled, veering toward the flickering streetlight at the far end, where shadows danced and twisted. The feeble light did little to calm my nerves. I could hear voices shouting nearby, rising and falling in chaos. "What are we running from?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "The shadows. Something is wrong," she replied, breathless. "They want to keep me. I don't know why." I was starting to feel the weight of her words. "We need to find out what is going on," I said, realizing then what my gut had been trying to warn me from the start. If there was something dark lurking, we were right in its path. We ducked behind an old car, its paint nearly gone, and I pulled out the phone I had found. Its screen flickered to life, displaying static at first. I swiped at the images again. The feeds from the store were still there, yet there seemed to be more now. There were timestamps, various angles, and in some clips, flashes of a shadowy figure moving through aisles even when no one was visible. "That's not right," she whispered, peering over my shoulder. I scanned the feeds, each one seeming to hold a piece of the puzzle we desperately needed. "What does it mean?" "Maybe it shows us what happened to you," I responded, focusing on a particular video. It captured a moment when she had wandered off earlier in the night, showing her being followed by that vile shadow. She didn't notice until it was too late, not until it lunged forward, engulfing her in darkness as she cried for help. I felt bile rise in my throat. "We need to get this to someone who can help us. The police, those people won't believe us." She interrupted, panic clawing at her voice. "They think I'm just another girl who disappeared. They don't even know about the others." "Invisible others," I said softly, considering her frail but steady words. "No one sees what happens here. We'll find a way to show them the truth. Let us go to the van. It has the radio. We can broadcast the footage." She nodded hesitantly, her eyes darting again toward the entrance of the store. We had to move fast. But as we began to run, headlights suddenly pierced the asphalt like knives, and I froze. "Stop!" A voice boomed from the vehicle, cutting through the night. "I need to see your ID." I held my breath, caught between feeling relief and fear. A uniformed officer stepped out, but his face was obscured by the glare of the headlights. "What is going on here?" he demanded. Before I could answer, my friend glanced back toward the store. "They're coming. We have to." Then everything went dark. I felt the ground shift beneath me as the darkness swallowed us whole. I blinked, the light from the officer's car fading. Then, blinding flashes ignited my vision, and I stumbled back against the car. It took a moment for me to realize I was staring at the phone screen again. The static flickered, but instead of the earlier clips, there appeared something new. It was dark, but I could make out shapes moving abruptly, fast and erratic. My heart raced. "What is this?" I muttered, feeling sick from the sudden whiplash of emotions. "Is that a different feed?" my friend whispered, leaning in. I squinted at the bright screen. The footage showed a narrow corridor. A figure flitted from the left, then another from the right. The clips fragmented, cutting in and out as though something was disrupting the signal. I couldn't help but feel that something vile was crawling closer. "No!" I gasped when I saw a glimmer of light illuminate one of the figures. It was a girl, much like my friend. She moved as if she were running away but ended up standing still, shaking, her eyes wide with terror. "She looks trapped." The shadows shifted rapidly, creeping closer to her. I felt a chill creep up my spine. "What kind of creatures are those?" I asked, glancing back at my friend, who appeared frozen in place, completely absorbed by the chaos on the screen. I don't know," she stammered. "But she looks just like me." Before I could respond, I heard it again, footsteps closing in on us, heavy and deliberate. I gripped her arm, and we scanned our surroundings. The parking lot was empty, the flickering light above casting a ghostly glow on the cracked pavement. "We can't let them get to us," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What if it's too late?" she replied, voice trembling. "What if we're already?" "Don't say that," I snapped. "We need to get to the van before they find us here." I started to pull her along as we crept toward the edge of the parking lot. But then, just as we reached the van, a hand shot out from the shadows, grabbing her wrist. I screamed, instinctively yanking her back toward me, but it was too late. A shape emerged from the darkness, the air thick with an awful presence. "Let her go!" I shouted, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. "What do you want from us?" The figure didn't answer but instead loomed closer, the air heavy with menace. Just as I thought we were out of options, my finger accidentally swiped the screen of the phone again. The feed flickered once more, revealing an image that made my blood turn cold. When I saw it, I gasped. The screen showed evidence the very same hand that held my friend now appeared in another clip, reaching through a thick cloud of darkness, gnarled and twisted. It was the same shadow, and it was clawing its way back into our world. The grip around my friend's wrist tightened, and I felt my gut twist. I could barely see the figure clearly, but the urgency of its presence was suffocating. "Let her go!" I screamed again, desperation fueling my voice. A chill ran down my spine as the heavy silence lingered. I could almost hear the heartbeat of the darkness surrounding us. I couldn't stand there. Panic surged within me, igniting an instinct to fight or flee. I pulled my friend closer, trying to yank her away from the shadow. To my surprise, she was rigid, eyes darting wildly between the figure and me. "We need to run," I hissed, pulling harder. The figure shifted, and I caught a glimpse of its face, or what could be called a face. It was wrong. Its features were warped and blurred, like a grotesque painting gone wrong. I felt bile rise in my throat, and I forced myself to focus. "Now!" I urged my friend. Finally, she broke free from her stupor. With a single frantic tug, she stumbled backward, falling against the van. Her eyes widened further as we locked gazes for a split second before we dashed for the driver's side. As we scrambled, the figure lunged. I heard the swish of fabric, a chilling sound that felt like claws scraping the air. I yanked the door open with a jarring force and dove inside, urging her to follow. She tumbled in beside me, breathless. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know," I replied, fumbling for the keys in the ignition as adrenaline coursed through me. "But we have to leave." I turned the key, and the engine roared to life, causing a glimmer of hope to spark within me. Before I could shift into drive, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The figure was close, too close. I saw it almost take a step forward, stopped only by the boundary of light from the parking lot lamp. "It can't come out here," I murmured, a feeble comfort. But even as I spoke, the shadows around the light seemed to writhe, curling back, as if the darkness debated its territory. I pressed down on the accelerator, and the van jolted forward. We sped out of the lot, the figure fading into the night behind us. "Did you get the numbers?" my friend shouted, still in shock. I realized I had no idea how we could report what we had witnessed: the feed, the girl, the shadow. I didn't even think. "We need to find a safe place," I stammered, gripping the wheel as we tore through the quiet streets. My mind raced. The footage might show something. If we could just... Suddenly, the van's lights flickered. The dashboard went dark. "What's happening?" my friend yelped. Come on, come on." I coaxed the ignition, turning it repeatedly. Then it went dead. I slammed the wheel in frustration. "No, no. We can't stop now." Outside, the familiar rhythm of night was replaced by an eerie stillness. I peered out into the void, dread pooling in my stomach. "What if it finds us?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. I had no answers. Just then, I spotted a figure lurking near the entrance of the lot, but this one looked different. It wasn't the same shape. I could feel my blood run cold again. That's when I saw it: the same girl from the footage, peering at us from the shadows. The girl stepped closer, her face a mask of fear and something else, something darker. I felt my heart pound in my chest, an unsettling rhythm that echoed the hesitation in my throat. "What does she want?" I said, mostly to myself. "She looks scared." "Should we help her?" my friend asked, her voice shaking. "No," I snapped, possibly too harshly. "We don't even know what just happened back there. We need to get out of here. Now." I glanced around. The streets were empty, but I felt eyes on us. It was suffocating. I quickly scanned the area, feeling that same fear tighten its grip on my chest, weighing me down. I needed to act. As I was about to put the van in drive, the girl lifted her hand and pointed at something behind her. I squinted, trying to make it out, but my vision was still a mess from the encounter earlier. I barely saw a shape slipping deeper into the darkness. "Did you see that?" I asked, my voice low and urgent. My friend nodded, but she looked scared, really scared. "Maybe we should call someone," she suggested. "The police or someone." Just as I started to gather my thoughts, a loud bang echoed off the walls of the empty lot. I jumped, my heart racing. "What was that?" I exclaimed, scanning the area again. The noise was unsettling, like a steel door slamming shut. "I think it came from the girl," my friend gasped, pointing anxiously. Through my growing panic, I caught sight of movement. The girl was no longer standing in the shadows. She was running. Running fast, but not away from us. Toward us. "Go!" I shouted, slamming the gear into reverse. Tires screeched as I backed up, trying to maintain control. The girl, now just a blur, darted directly into our path. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice high and panicked. "You can't leave. You don't understand." My stomach twisted. I was torn between wanting to hear her out and the overwhelming fear of what might happen next. "Why?" I shouted back. "What do we need to understand?" "I'll explain." "Please, just stop," she pleaded, her face lit by the moonlight, a face filled with raw desperation. I hesitated, foot hovering over the gas pedal. My instinct screamed at me to get out of here, but something in her eyes held me. "What about the dark figure?" I pressed. "What do you know?" For a moment, she simply stared at me, breathless, as if she was processing that I actually wanted answers. Then, she opened her mouth, but suddenly, the ground shook beneath us. A ripple, a wave of darkness, surged from the shadows, rushing past the girl like a living thing. The van trembled. "What is happening?" my friend cried, clutching the dashboard. Before I could respond, the girl looked back, panic overtaking her expression. "You need to trust me. It's coming." And just like that, the night transformed as the shadows lurched forward, engulfing the distance like hungry beasts. I felt my blood run cold again. With nowhere else to go, I stared back at the girl, my mind racing. That's when I noticed it. Behind her, a shape began to take form, indistinct at first, but the outline grew more defined with every heartbeat. It was coming for us. I froze, my heart hammering as the shadow grew larger. It morphed into something I couldn't comprehend. A figure, tall and elongated, emerged from the darkness, moving with an unnatural grace. Fear shot through me like ice. "Get back!" I yelled, throwing the van in drive. The tires squealed again, but my foot hesitated. The girl was still there, hopelessly caught between us and whatever that shadow was. "What do we do?" I cried, panic clawing at my throat. "Move!" she shouted, a defiant scream tinged with dread. She darted forward, grabbing the side of the van. "I can lead you to safety. It's not what you think." Her grip was tight and desperate. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to listen. But the looming figure had transformed, its features rippling as it expanded. A face emerged from the shapeless mass, eyes flickering like fire, and a mouth twisting into a grin that made my skin crawl. "Please!" my friend shrieked, her voice cracking. "We can't stay here." The girl's eyes darted to me, and I could see the fear mirrored in them. "You have to trust me," she urged. "Right now." Everything inside me screamed to escape. But as the creature surged forward, I felt a pull, an inexplicable connection to the girl. Her panic was real, and for some reason, my instincts began to shift. "Fine," I gasped, throwing the van into park. "Let us hear what you have to say. Quick, get in the back," she shouted, her urgency contagious. Without thinking, I unbuckled my seatbelt and dove into the back of the van while my friend followed suit, confusion and fear trailing behind us like a shadow. The girl jumped in after us, slamming the door shut just as the figure lunged forward, its shadow spilling over the windows, making the interior feel like a cage. The van shuddered with a deep thud, the creature hitting the side as if testing its strength. "Now what?" I panted, trying to control my breathing. "What do we do?" "Hold on," she muttered, eyes darting between the doors. "You need to trust me. I can help you." I wanted to, truly. But all I could focus on was the noise, the scraping sound of claws against metal. The creature was relentless, probing the van, and my gut twisted harder. "I'll explain everything. Just give me a moment," she urged, her voice barely cracking above the din. As I huddled next to my friend, I fought to stay calm, but I felt a horrible realization creeping in. We can't stay here forever. It's going to get in. We need a way out. Then everything felt like it tilted. The van rocked again, but this time, it felt different. A light flickered across the interior, illuminating the fear etched on all our faces. An idea sparked in my mind. "That shape," I stammered, struggling to focus on the girl. What if it's anchored to you? Can you tell it to stop?" Her expression darkened. "I can't control it. It's too powerful. But I know how to end this." "Then hurry," I urged, feeling the pressure rise. I glanced at the windows, the darkness outside thrumming with energy, anticipation. One last shake rattled the van, and I gripped my friend's arm tight as I braced for what comes next. I could sense it, we were on the edge of something terrible. That was when I heard it, a voice, deep and rumbling, emanating from the shadows outside. "You can't escape, you belong to me." I felt my pulse race. A chill ran through me as an overwhelming rush of dread settled in the pit of my stomach. Loyalty is meant to be a bond. But there are some ties that shouldn't be formed. The shadows loomed outside, and the voice echoed in my bones like a distant thunder. "You belong to me." My heart raced as the weight of those words settled in my mind. I clenched my fists, anchoring myself to the reality of the moment. If we were going to survive, I needed to act. "Listen to me," I shouted, ignoring the tremor in my voice. "What do we have to do? We can't stay here forever." The van rocked again, the sharp claws of the creature scraping against metal as it sought a way inside. The girl's face twisted with determination, her eyes wild yet clear. "You have to trust me. We have to confront it together. It's the only way to break its hold on me." "But how?" I urged, panic clawing at my throat. "It's too strong. We can't just stand here." She locked eyes with me, her gaze piercing. "Every shadow has a source. When I enter its darkness, I'll draw its attention. You must find a way to get us out. Just follow my lead." Before I could respond, she was beside the driver's seat, whispering a soft incantation, her voice spilling into the cracks of our confinement. "I command you to release your grip." As she spoke, the atmosphere thickened, and I could feel the van vibrating with tension. The creature howled, a low growl that rattled our bones, but she didn't waver. I felt my friend squeeze my hand, her fear palpable. I wanted to scream, to shake the girl back into reality, but I couldn't. I needed to trust her. Then, without warning, the van lights flickered and fell dark again. The shadows pressed closer, encasing us in suffocating fear. "Hold on!" the girl shouted as the van shuddered violently, sending us careening away from whatever hell awaited us. "What are you doing?" I gasped, clinging tightly to my friend. "Creating an opening." The girl responded without looking back. I had no idea how she intended to deal with the creature, but I hoped she knew that we were inching closer to danger. The van lurched again, sharply, and in that moment, I glimpsed a flicker, something familiar and sharp in the edges of the growing dark. "It's coming!" I yelled as the creature's inky tendril stretched toward us, but we were suddenly flooded with a sudden harsh white light. With a deafening crack, the van jolted forward. The shadows recoiled for a moment, hissing as if they were being forced back. "Now!" the girl shouted, her voice full of resolve. "Out of the van! Go!" We stumbled out, the cool night air hitting our lungs like ice water. We heard a roar behind us, the creature in full rage as it contorted itself in the light, struggling to break free. "Over here!" My friend pulled me toward a path leading away from the parking lot in a surge of motion. We ran, adrenaline driving us further into the night. But as we reached the glow of streetlights, we turned to see if the shadow was following. It was there, fuming and writhing, but it wouldn't cross beyond the threshold of light. It stood there, seething, as the girl stepped forward as if drawing strength from the brightness. "I won't let you take her," she cried. "Not anymore." The air shimmered, electric with the energy of her conviction. She raised her hands, and the light swelled, pushing the darkness back, illuminating the demon that had terrorized her life for so long. "Let go of her!" I shouted, feeling the courage swell within me. My fear momentarily subsided, and I joined her. "You're nothing but a coward hiding in shadows." In that moment of unity, the creature wailed, a primal sound reverberating in the air. The shadows clawed at the light, but slowly, steadily, the pressure began to shatter. Just as unexpectedly as it began, the air around us exploded with light. The last echo of the creature's cries faded, replaced with the quiet hum of nighttime. We stood, panting with relief, gazing worriedly at where the darkness had been. "We did it," I breathed, sharing a look of triumph with the girl and my friend. The weight that had hung over us lifted, at least for now. My heart was still racing, clenched with questions that demanded answers. But then the girl looked over her shoulder, fear returning to her eyes. It's not over. It can come back. My heart sank at the words. Just when we thought we could breathe again, there was the uncomfortable realization that the battle wasn't finished. What do we do now? I wondered aloud, the weight of uncertainty descending again. We prepare, she said, her voice steeled with resolve. I'll call others who know. We need to figure out how to stop it for good. I nodded, trying to shake off the fear. Some shadows linger still, beyond what we conquered. Perhaps they would always exist, just beyond our line of sight. As we started walking away from the remnants of the darkness, I felt a chill skitter down my spine, an unsettling sense that part of that malevolence would remain, watching from the corners of our vision. I still think about that night. Sometimes I wonder if the shadow waits for another chance to creep back into the light. But mostly, I try not to think about it.